Blog Talk Radio.
Fans, here we go with the main event of the evening. Ladies and gentlemen in attendance, boxing fans joining us around the world. It's time for the bout you've all been waiting for. Finally, it is showtime.
Here, man, we dedicate our life to this sport. We do thousands of sit-ups in camp. We run hundreds of miles, for the ones that take it serious. And we just dedicate ourselves fully to our craft, man. We watch tape. We have attitude, we rooting, and we go into that fight is to lay it on the line.
Basketball fans, the NBA Playoff Banter podcast returns. I'm Chris, he's Marshall, and we're here to discuss everything revolving around the NBA Finals. We had a hell of a game last night, came all the way down to the wire. We'll definitely start the show with discussing that, obviously. We'll kind of jump into what got us to last night in that Game 5, but we definitely got to, recap that Game 5, no doubt about it. Like I said, came all the way down to the wire. Durant returned, looked really good, and then got hurt again. It looks really bad for him. It definitely makes me think of several years back when you had a Tim Duncan and a Grant Hill both hurt in the playoffs. One decided to play, and the situation got worse, and the other didn't, and the rest is history, I guess you could say. So we'll talk, of course, about that and just, how the game ended. You had Golden State had a pretty large lead. Toronto just kind of chopped down the tree slowly but surely, got back into it. They got a decent lead late. I think they were up by 6 with 2 minutes to go, something like that. There was a back-to-back timeout that you don't normally see that some people were discussing, like it wasn't good for Toronto, that the coach shouldn't have done that because they were on such a roll, which obviously they were on a roll. And then discuss the last part of the game. And that a lot of the discussion would be revolving around Lowry. If you look at 3 items that we'll discuss from him as far as how that game ended and some of the mistakes he had, it's pretty ugly. Missed 2 open threes, especially the last one, and also had a turnover. But overall, as a fan, from a fan's perspective, obviously, if you've listened to the show, my co-host is a longtime Golden State fan. He's not one of these Johnny-come-lately here. He was, with them when they were down and out. And he had to have been shaken a little bit at the end of that. But at least we got ourselves a really tight game. And we have more games. So as a fan, I'm very happy. Even if Durant didn't come back, just seeing how healthy Clay was. I was kind of surprised how healthy Clay was in that game when he came back, Game 4. Even though, it didn't necessarily go well, he looked pretty good. So I thought, my point is, even without Durant, I did think that they were going to be able to, get this done anyway. But, having Durant back for that short amount of time, it'll be interesting, man. What happens here? But the series goes back to Golden State. One more game at the Oracle. So we're going to discuss all of that. And then, of course, talk about, Game 6 and, of course, Game 7. We might as well talk a little Game 7 as well if, in fact, we think that's what's going to happen. And, with Golden State at home, the home crowd, Clay having a couple more days to be okay, it's going to be tough to beat Golden State and Golden State. So I'm pretty sure that we both think that we're going to have a Game 7. And, hey, a Game 7 in any sport's fun, but in the finals, it's definitely great. By the way, if this is your first time listening to the NBA Playoff Banter podcast, it streams live and it archives on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. So, like I said, it streams live, it archives. It's under the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast Banter, which can be found on iTunes, Player FM, Stitcher, Spreaker, TuneIn. You can also use your Siri or Alexa through TuneIn and Spotify. We're also part of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network, which can be found on iTunes everywhere, including Spotify, including iHeartRadio as well. Head on over to thegruelingtruth.net. That's thegruelingtruth.net. You can listen to the podcast right at the website, by the way. And they also got a brand new sponsor over there, and I just forgot the code for it because they've been on that other sponsor for so long. So I got to double check here to make sure I'm saying this properly. Okay, it's BetDCI. BetDCI. So if you can actually make a deposit, receive 50% either sports or casino bonus. Use the promo code TGT at BetDCI. Okay? Head on over to growingtruth.net. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my co-host. Well, I'll do that a little later in the show. What's going on, Marshall? As a Golden State fan, you have to be feeling pretty damn good this afternoon. You got another home game in this in the old what's going to be the old arena. That's pretty cool. But just another day alive in the playoffs, and you got to be feeling pretty good heading home, in the conference, like I said, of Oracle.
Yeah, man. I mean, yesterday it was kind of weird. I was supposed to fly home or fly back to Texas on a Sunday, but since they had a massive storm that came through here and just kind of cleaned out Dallas, my flight got delayed. So then I had to fly home Monday, and I pretty much landed on the plane last night, and the Warriors were up 8, and I was going through my group chat of a couple hundred texts, and all of a sudden it's like Durant hit a 3, Durant's looking good. And by the time I actually got cell service, it was like Durant's hurt. I was like, oh, crap. So then it was hustling off the plane, hustling back to my car, driving to the nearest sports bar. So it wasn't the smoothest night, but obviously I did get to see the end. They are live to fight another day. You messaged me to do the podcast today. I'm like, I'm going to, but, man, I hope that I'm breaking down a upcoming game and not the end of what's been a hell of a run. Just another special moment, man. I'm happy my flight didn't get delayed on last night, though, because that was a very enjoyable game to watch as a Warriors fan. And like you said, now we got some more basketball to enjoy in the next couple of days.
Yeah, definitely. And if you think even heading into this series, not even knowing for sure if Durant was even going to be back, a lot of people, favored the Warriors. I mean, just on this show, we both thought they'd win. How's that sweep working out for you there, Marshall? I forgot to. I had to mention that too.
It's looking pretty ugly. But and I gotta say, along with Twitter though, I think it's 100% true that clearly Durant and the team itself has not always been on the same page. I mean, there's reports out that him and Draymond have had words, and 2 seasons ago he was kind of drifting away from the team. So Kerr had to sit down and meet with him around Christmas time to kind of bring him back. So personality-wise, they've never seemed to be quite a mesh. Everyone says he's going to go next year to a different team. So the chemistry of those guys as a group has not always kind of been perfect. But, all that kind of doesn't matter because, the guy went out last night and did all he could, So I know I'm kind of taking shots at KD, and it's kind of been a thing of man, is he going to leave? What's going on there? It's always been drama. But you can't really doubt the effort there. And the guy came out and did all he could. Now, if the injury had prior necessarily correlated to what he had last night, we're not doctors, we don't know how his legs are, but there was no lack of heart or kind of sit on the side. The dude went out there and played all he could, and so the kind of jokes and all the drama and stuff, it kind of drifts away when you see a guy who's going to be making, $30 million a year as a free agent go out and do all he can for a team, put his future contracts on the line, and play as well as he could, and get hurt again. The jokes and the drama clearly went away last night, and you kind of realize, okay, dude, maybe they aren't all best buds, but he went out there and did all he could, even if he wasn't 100%. And unfortunately, he suffered injury. I'm sure he'll come back, but all that stuff kind of drifted away, I guess you could say, really quickly when that happened last night, unfortunately.
Yeah, you never like to see that. It's always, it is always a tough one. It's he did try to do it, and obviously we now know how hurt he was. I mean, if they didn't play him game 4, because nobody wants to get down 3-1, right? There's no team that really wants to get down 3-1 in a series. Am I right with that? I mean, so if he was okay to play, they probably would have played him in that series just because, hey, and maybe it was, hey, I'm feeling better. It's an elimination game. I want to go out and help my team. So it's just it does suck for him. Not that he's like up there in age per se, but if it's as bad as they make it sound like, he's going to be out for quite a long time. And in a weird way, obviously we'll talk about this more, when the season's done, but in a strange way, you never know. He does have a player option. So you never know. He may take that and make sure he's good. Or maybe, is everybody going to be like the same teams that were going to give him a large deal? Are they still for sure 100% going to give him that deal? I mean, there is a lot on the table when it comes to that. But yeah, you hope that it doesn't have any lingering effects, because he's such a great player and he's still well in his prime. So we'll see how that goes. But getting to the game, the actual game, like I said, with game 4, when Clay came back, yeah, they lost, but man, he came back and looked damn good. And you could really see how minor of a sprain it was to his hamstring, because when you hear hamstring or even calf with KD, you're just like, man, I really don't know. We actually met up not long ago, at our favorite spot, and had a drink, had a meal, and just sat, chopped it up for a couple hours. And we were even saying, man, I just don't, man, that's going to be rough. And you just don't know. You really don't know hamstring, wise. Everybody I talked to, we all kind of said the same, man, I wonder if Clay's going to be back and how good he's going to be, even if he is back. But, the way he started game 4, and like I said, it was a losing effort, sure. And Toronto played really, really well. And they just kept, a comfortable enough lead down the stretch to finish them off. But the game, it was kind of like the Warriors would get like a 9-point lead, and then they cut it to 4. Then they get a 10-point lead, they cut it to 5, and they get this, and they just kept chopping down that tree. Toronto wasn't playing great in game 4, I guess you could say, until they were. And then they managed to get up 3-1. But going into this game, I really felt, like I said at the beginning, I did feel like they will get it done. The whole, trapped in the corner, nowhere else to go. How are you going to react? A lot of times athletes react like an animal would in that situation. And they just go all out. They attack because they have no other choice. And, I thought the Warriors came out and played pretty good. I didn't thing, another thing with Durant, it's like, man, if they didn't play him in Game 4, why would you want to get down 3-1 like I discussed? How good is he going to be? And then all of a sudden he came out and in 12 minutes had 11 points and, hit 3 threes. And you're like, wow, okay, he's fine, and they got a nice lead in the game. And I think they got it up to, 14 or something like that. And Toronto started chopping down that tree slowly but surely. And sometimes they get it close. And then, Golden State would extend it. And I'm just going to pass it to my co-host as we talk the second half, the third quarter, into the fourth quarter. How were you feeling seeing Durant go back down, but also seeing that your team still has a lead? It was still pushing the lead a little bit, not quite, where it was at one point, but they had a bit of a cushion, into the third, down the stretch of the third, and, of course, into the fourth quarter. What was your mindset at that point beyond being really nervous because this is an elimination game?
Yeah, I think having the lead was nice because it let Kerr do a little bit of resting. When I say resting, that's basically, okay, Steph, go sit on the bench, your turn, Clay, and then flip-flop. Like, the resting pattern is give Steph 2-3 minutes, give Clay 2-3 minutes. All right, now you guys are back out there together. They did switch in Iguodala and Boogie a little bit too. Quinn Cook got a couple of minutes, but at least having the lead was key for the third quarter because the other third quarters in the series normally have kind of killed us because we've had to use our bench. Like, I was giving Drepko crap because he's been looking like garbage. He doesn't even play in the series anymore. And, Looney came back last night, and then he got hurt again. And Jordan Bell, the bench is so banged up and just not what it could be. So I thought that having that lead was huge because obviously you can't, basketball guys can't go 48 minutes. Even LeBron, who's a freak of a robot, would never play a full 48-minute game. So the resting was key, and you did that obviously in the fourth quarter. And that gives Steph and Clay a chance to be somewhat loose. So I thought third quarter, at least, like I said, you held on to it. But I knew Toronto was going to make a run. This isn't a team that is going to just fall and crumble at home. Obviously, they do have pressure on them to try to wrap it up. But the way they've played the whole playoffs, you knew there'd be some type of push. And obviously, as the fourth quarter started, again, it was staying around the 7-point Warriors lead. And then that run slowly started happening. And, Kawhi hit a shot. I remember as we went into the end of the third quarter, like, Kawhi Leonard had 1 point in the third quarter. I'm like, well, that shit sucks. That's definitely not going to be the same case.
I remember seeing that stat, too. I remember seeing that stat and going, all right, we're going to see if that changes.
Yeah, and it did. And, for the fourth quarter, I thought they did a nice job of giving Boogie a couple of shots. He had a couple of mismatches. Quinn Cook hit a nice three. Iguodala, even though his shots on the lane were pretty, you could tell the guy was trying. So I thought overall they were just kind of drifting through the fourth quarter, trying to hold on to the lead and keeping it close to the end of the game where you know that we're a team that can finish. Obviously, there's a couple of turning points down the game as we get near the end. One that was really a momentous dag, which I thought was going to be my main point to kind of bitch about today, was the missed travel. And I know the NBA, you always heard about what travels, what travels not. The travel when they missed on Kawhi, where he took 4 damn steps in the bunny hop and dropped off pass for that dunk, that was huge. Because after that, Kerr calls a timeout. The place is going nuts. The Warriors lead went from 4 to 2. And then they were on a run pretty much right after that timeout. So in the back of my head, Chris, I was thinking, okay, that was a bullshit travel. The refs can't miss that in an NBA Finals game when that guy takes that big of a travel, but it happened nonetheless. And after the Warriors took that timeout, and timeouts being a key thing, because we'll get to timeouts in a little bit here again too, I thought that was going to kind of be the end. And Golden State kind of, came out flat for a little bit. Toronto had the momentum. They got a lead. Toronto actually had a 6-point lead with all the momentum. And then, thankfully, Nick Nurse, pulled an idiotic move. I remember sitting at the bar and I was like, why? Well, I'm like, the Warriors can't call a timeout. We don't have the ball. Why would you call a timeout? the place was going nuts. Kawhi Leonard was hot, and a gift from God came down. And I'm not retweeting people because I saw some Twitter last night. This was my original thoughts when I was texting my buddy about during the game. Nick Nurse called a timeout. His reasoning after the game was he wanted to give his players a little bit of a timeout for an energy boost. And
he was going to lose
backfired.
it. He also said he was going to lose it or whatever because he had 4.
And sure, I guess you lose timeouts, but God, am I thankful Chrissy called that, because after that timeout, I believe the Warriors finished on like a 9-2 run, or they went on 9, and so it went from being we're done, like in my head I'm thinking, okay, the season's over, it's a good run, and a timeout kind of slowed things down, and then the Warriors kind of refound themselves. But that timeout, man, my point I was thinking about basketball is like momentum is a scary thing, and we see it happen in college so often, especially with the home court and the kids and everything, and even in pros too. But it's like, momentum is something that, normally is the coach who's facing adversity, you call the timeout. To call a timeout when your team is on the brink of celebrating a championship, I mean, obviously coaches are going to take crap because they don't always make the right decisions. But, man, that was a stupid decision. I don't care what his excuse is. And if you're saying your players needed a rest, you're playing a team who's more beat up than you. Like, if your guys are tired, imagine how Golden State's feeling. And not to mention, Clay and Iguodala, neither of those guys can stop Kawhi. He's scoring effortlessly, so that timeout was a blessing. I think if that timeout doesn't happen, I don't think we win the game, Chris. So, man, that was a massive turning point. I think it's like 3 minutes and 6 seconds left. That timeout kind of revamped Golden State, and thankfully they went on a run after that.
Yeah, and if you look at it, they had taken, it was, they had gotten up, Toronto had gotten up by 192-90, or no, they had shrunk it to 92-91 with 6:54. Then Draymond hit a 3, 95-91. Got it to 95-93 with 5-something, then 5:13, 96-95 with 5:13 left. And like you said, it was Kawhi again with the 2-foot shot. And then another 3-pointer, and that was 101-97, and then like a 16-foot jumper too. So it turned out to be 103-97 with 3:28. And back-to-back timeouts. You don't really see that much. And I could see Leonard. I mean, Leonard has had a long playoff series. We all know that. That is one thing that we can agree on, and he hasn't been 100% either. So I understand looking at your guy kind of tired and stuff. But yeah, that was a big mistake, especially at home, dude, when the place is going nuts. Clay hits a 3. Steph hits a 3, it's 103-103. Clay hits a 3, it's 106-103, and you're like, oh boy, here we go. But then
I was going nuts.
yeah, right. But then it's Lowry time. And Lowry time is not a positive thing usually, especially in the playoffs. Now, he's had some good series, and he had a good game going on. If you look at how many points scored and what he was doing, he was having a good game. He missed a wide – and this was actually when they were still up 103-100. He missed wide open 3. Wide open 3, right? Then he goes down and he dribbles, and this was under a minute 30, dribbles, and it looks like he's going to drive. Then he kind of fades to the right a little bit, then he chucks it back, and it's a turnover. And you're like, what are you even doing, dude? What are you doing, man? That's 2 things that you already messed up on. And then they actually do have a shot to win the championship. And, they kept saying, oh, Draymond closed so strong. You would have thought he blocked the shot and put it 10 feet into the stands. You know what I mean? That the way they talked about, oh, look at how he closed out like he blocked him. But he didn't block him. He didn't block the shot, though. It was a nice closeout. He was open, and Draymond did what Draymond does, but he didn't. It wasn't like an altering where he had to pump fake underneath Draymond and put a desperation shot up. It was all one motion. He was open for a slight second, and he got a shot off. He didn't block the shot, and the frickin' ball hit the side of the backboard. Like, it's one thing to have to adjust your shot or having Draymond close on you so it messes you. I mean, this is the NBA, so if someone's closing on your shot, guess what? It happens all the time. But, of course, it didn't happen on the first one he missed. But it's just like, dude, put up a little bit better shot than that. Don't let it hit the side of the backboard. And he kind of just walked off the court like, oh, boy. You know, it was bad, dude. And I mean, you know, more power. All props to Golden State. That's like a 40% shot right there, 45 at best anyway. So it wasn't like this high, you know, prolific, easy bucket like he missed a layup or something like that. I'm not saying that he cost him the game, but he kind of sure didn't help him down the stretch. He had 3 opportunities, in every one of them he did not take advantage of. So we are on to Game 6, and that is Thursday. And this is one thing about playing in the finals that helps Golden State playing all these minutes since Durant's been out, and especially the last chunk of games when their bench is starting to get, you know, Looney having issues as well. We thought Looney was out of the series. He's been fighting through it. But it is nice because a lot of times they've had, you know, like the last game was what? Friday to Monday. At least you get a couple of, you know, gaps of time, and it's not just travel, boom, you're there. So that does help. Monday to Thursday, everyone should come back pretty damn fresh. Like I said, it gives Clay a couple more days to rehab. And here we are, Game 6, and it's really tough not to think that Golden State's not going to win at home. You know, it's really tough for me to wrap my head around the fact that Golden State wouldn't win at home, Marshall. And it would have to be, you know, a very hot shooting night and all that type of stuff on the other side. Toronto, it would be almost, to me, it almost feel like they'd have to have like a 10 to 14 point cushion in the fourth quarter, and they still may have to grind it out. Now that's what I kind of think, because the home court, the momentum, all that stuff. However, you can make a case, you know, the fact that they had a 14-point lead, let some of that slide, got it up to 6 points, Toronto, but they didn't play all that well. I mean, they were 8 of 32 from the three, shooting 25%, where you had Golden State. They hit 47, basically 48% from three. They hit 23s in that game. Now, are they going to for sure go hit another 20? That I don't know. I mean, the way sometimes these teams get going these days, maybe both of them will hit 20, and the score will be 134 to 133. I don't know. But pretty much everything tells me this thing is going back to Toronto for Game 7. But in the back of my head, Marshall, I have to look at that. Man, you had a winnable game, and the other team hit 23s. So that's really my only kind of, yeah, maybe this isn't a given. I mean, nothing's given, but this is Golden State. It's at home. What are your thoughts here, man?
I mean, it's just I don't, besides LeBron, I literally don't think another team in the NBA comes back to win when you're down 6 with 3 minutes to go with shoes on the line. It just, Steph and Clay, they just find ways to make their threes. And I mean, when he hit that game winner last night, I had my hands up for about 3 seconds because Kawhi jumped past him, and just Clay doesn't miss those shots. It just, him and Steph are special. And I think they're going to for sure put on special show again at home for Game 6. I think the main keys are, how can the rest of the guys come and help them? I mean, Clay, I'd be shocked if Curry and Clay don't put up 60 together. I think that's a given. But are we going to see the DeMarcus Cousins of Game 2 and 5, or the boogie of 3 and 4? Is Iguodala going to hit his clutch threes? Is he going to struggle with the jump shots like last night? You know, Quinn Cook, is he good for another couple of clutch shots? I mean, obviously, Bogut and Boogie and Iguodala, they're going to kind of take turns with the bigs, but I just think it's a matter of how good can the role players do. Now, obviously, I think the home court, last game at Oracle, and if I was rich, I'd be flying my ass to that game, but I can't afford that. That'd probably put a dent in my paycheck. But I think the home crowd, Steph and Clay, and something special about it, I think they have a great chance to win. But I thought they had a great chance to win in Game 4, Chris. I mean, Clay was back. Clay was fresh. The first half they played decent, but Toronto chipped away in the near halftime. And in the third quarter, a quarter that the Warriors have owned for like the past 5-6 years, they got their ass kicked. It was the Kawhi Leonard show, Game 4 at Golden State.
Yeah, 37-21. 37-21 that third quarter.
And that almost never happens. And they got smacked. And now we're going back to the same situation. Again, no KD. Looney's probably out again. So you're basically putting your season on the line with, can Jordan Bell, DeMarcus Cousins, and Iguodala make enough big plays? Now, Draymond's Draymond. He's going to make some dumb plays, but 9 out of 10 times what he does helps the team. I mean, he's going to get his near triple-double, but it's like who else can step up? And obviously, we've talked about this for years. The home court obviously always helps the bench players. But I can't say I'm too confident because then I was confident as hell going into Game 4. And I left that night from the bar, and I was not feeling too happy at all. And so Kawhi's going to do his thing, and that's the one thing that kind of does scare me, and I'll throw it back to you, is, and I'm not saying that Kawhi is better than LeBron, and I'm not saying that Iguodala and Clay are healthy, but Iguodala and Clay are guys who guarded LeBron about as good as humanly possible in playoffs.
Yeah.
And Kawhi is making these guys look weak. Now, again, I don't think Iguodala is not in prime health like he was when he guarded LeBron that series, but nonetheless, those are two of the best defenders in the league. And when it's isolation, Kawhi is driving past those guys, and that's two of the best guys in the NBA. So if it comes down to Kawhi time and not Lowry time, we're going to need to go all out again. It's truly remarkable how damn good Kawhi is. I think, like I said, I kind of maybe disappeared from people a little bit this year up in Canada. Didn't play all the games.
Well, last year, really. A lot of it had to do with last year.
Sure. But, man, Chris, when that guy's got the ball and it's his decision to go to the bucket, he's been a pain in the ass to stop. And I think he's going to be ready to do that again Game 6, my friend. I hope it's not too crazy, but I like our odds, man. It's just the role players. Well, can our role players step up and help us? Because, if Steph had a quiet Game 6 at home, I'd be shocked. I'll come on the podcast and admit he didn't score 30. What the hell happened to him?
Right. And, we talk about, Clay and Iguodala being able to, doing as good a job as you can against LeBron. I mean, he still led both sides in some of those, finals of points, rebounds, assists, So, I mean, all you can do is try, and have make him work for every little thing that he can get. So, I mean, he had 26 points, had 12 boards, 6 assists. I guess the thing you could say is he didn't shoot the three well or whatever. He had kind of, he had a good fourth quarter. That third quarter was a little lacking, just like Game 1. But yeah, he's been on a hell of a run, no doubt about it, and he's really, shown what he's worth, not just to this team, but just in general. But yeah, it is. I don't know, man. It is kind of, without Durant, this team is vulnerable, obviously. And we've seen it, how injuries can affect teams they've played. Now we're seeing how injuries can affect without Durant. But this would be big, man. And like I said, it really coming into game, like I said earlier, going into Game 1 and people's mentality, even without Durant, pretty much, most people thought Golden State would win this thing. And I do have to say, they hit 23s like I mentioned last game, and they were still had a chance to win it a couple times, and they choked at the end. They didn't do what they were supposed to, and the timeouts had something to do with it maybe too. But Golden State did. But then again, Game 3 and Game 4, were in Golden State. You know what I mean? And they won both of them, and pretty much handedly down the stretch. So, man, I don't know. I'm a little confused, but I am going to stick to my gun and say that we are going to have a Game 7 in Toronto. And, at that point, it's basically like may the best team win. And that'll be Sunday, won't it? Sunday night? Am I right with that?
Yeah. Fingers crossed. Yes, sir.
So Thursday and Sunday. And that's what's left of the NBA season. And by the way, if this is your first time listening to the NBA Playoff Banter podcast, we will be having a draft show too. I think the draft is next Thursday. So probably on that Friday, if we can fit one in, we'll definitely try to get a show there too. And then obviously, before you know it, I hate to say this, living in Minnesota in summer and all that, but a couple of weeks away, and we're going to be right into, the primetime free agency. Obviously, the Durant stuff with his injury, how many teams. It does. First of all, like I said, he's got a player option, and also it's just kind of strange right now. Like, man, you're not going to get him back until when? And we're going to sign him for 4 or 5 years. It does add some element of, I wonder what happens now. Maybe he'll, after all this stuff, stay for another year in Golden State with his player option. You never know. By the way, if you're thinking about cutting the cord, or if you've already cut the cord and trying to think of, you want to have cable but just inexpensive, try DirecTV now. 7-day free trial, no annual contract, stream anywhere, smart TV, smartphone, tablet. It has the cloud DVR. The plans start as low as $50 a month. And the Plus and Max deal packages, they come right with that $50 a month. Okay, or I'm sorry, HBO comes right with that. And they got some new series out, and some series that they had last year, the second season. So they always have some solid documentaries too. And this deal is almost done with the limited time offer. If you prepay for 4 months of DirecTV now, you get a free Apple TV 4K 5th generation, regularly priced at $179. So you're paying $200 for an Apple TV 4K 5th generation, but 4 months of DirecTV Now cable. Any last words here? I mean, do you think that Golden State's just going to win back-to-back games and win 3 to win out and do what happened to them back in 2016, which would be pretty damn great in a variety of ways for fans? Obviously, once you get into Game 6 and Game 7, it's a win-win for fans.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I kind of like to just listen to people's opinions of people who aren't quite as, built into it or dived in as we are. And so I was talking to my mom, and she's like, Toronto, all those guys are tall. It kind of made me laugh. It's kind of true. Like, Toronto's defense is what's really kind of has me nervous. Like, the Golden State's normally never been a team that's had to struggle to get offense. But with Clay and Steph kind of being the main options and the way Toronto plays D, that's what won that game in Game 3 and Game 4. I mean, yes, obviously Kawhi's good, and Toronto's offense is nothing to laugh about. But it is, I mean, my mom's insight of, all those guys are pretty tall and quick. Well, you have seen Ibaka make plays, or Van Fleet's been a pain in the ass for Curry the whole series. They found a way to make defense tough. But so on one hand, it's like, okay, the basketball 101 would say, dude, Toronto's going to find a way to get this done. But when you got Curry and Clay, it's like there's a fighting chance, because those guys just have that closer gene in them, and I'm hoping that still exists. And I hope I'm excited, man. I do think it does help, pretty much all players to have that extra day off. Obviously,
Yeah.
Iguodala needs rest. I mean, the Warriors need rest. Hell, I'm sure the Raptors need rest too. I mean, obviously, Golden State's the only team beat up, just like any other sport. You've been playing an extra couple of months of season. Your body needs a break. So I think it's maybe just a special moment of being the last game at Oracle. I think they find a way. And then, as you said, it's Game 7. You really have nothing to worry about. You might as well play 110% because once the game's over, your season's done. Then you can go take your golfing vacation or, get away. So just finding a way to get it to Game 7, man. Because when it comes to that, I mean, besides Kawhi and Danny Green, the Raptors really don't have guys who've been in that situation before. So I'm just praying optimistic. I'm thinking, I'm with you. I think they find a way to win 6. I just hope that someone else decides to help out the Splash Brothers, and then, man, Game 7. Oh, but Chris, I might just lock myself in my apartment, get a bottle of my choice, and just watch that game and just like, oh, here we go. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And hell, it'll be a fun evening. It'll be a hell of a night. I'm hoping we get to discuss a Game 7 as well, my friend.
Well, in that core, those 4 players, Clay and Steph and Iguodala and Draymond, as long as you have those 4 on the court, those 4 have won a ton of games together. Obviously, they've also done what they've done here. They've done the 3-1 before. They were down 3-1 to Oklahoma City. Now it's a different team, but still they were. So they have experience going through it. And the bit players, the role players are different. But those 4 players on the team, on the court, I should say, I still think you can get it done. But yeah, Game 7 is just such a toss-up, and sometimes just the way a team starts a game, and they're just hitting their threes, and there's not much you can do about it. That there is that. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, no doubt about it. Why don't you get us on out of here, sir?
Well, we will be doing podcasts breaking down what happens. I'm hoping I'll be in a great mood like I am right now, talking about my man Klay Thompson. But we will see. Toronto is definitely not going to bow down by any means at all. I just hope the Oracle fans push them to a win, and we can talk about Game 7. So until then, enjoy your summer break. As I said, maybe get some golf in, listen to this podcast when we have the time. And Chris and I will be back again shortly, hopefully talking about a Dubs ring. We're out. Have a good day. Peace.